Welcome to Conversations. My name is Suresh Kochatil. The question we often ask is education a business or a service? Before we get on to that, I would request you to like, subscribe, share and of course comment on this channel. Let's get into the business of education, or rather, it's not a business as many would say it. It all depends on whom you ask. If it's the owner of an educational institution, an educator or a parent, you will get different answers. Less said about asking the student because no one bothers to ask them. Now, news is coming in that the Telangana government is proposing to cap the fees collected by schools in the state. And the question is, how will they do it? And will it have repercussions in the long run? Surely it will have repercussions. The question first is, why should the state government cap the fees? Many would say, especially the parents would say, that the schools are collecting exorbitant fees and making it a business. The schools, on the other hand, say it costs a lot of money to set up the school in the first place, build the infrastructure and of course then get in running the school. There's a difference between the capex and of course the opex. The parents often look at the opex part of it and say the schools pay a pittance of salary to the teachers and the facilities are not great. But many schools say we provide international curriculum, huge infrastructure in terms of sports and others, and of course, good teachers. Many schools are now talking of halting their expansions amid the fee keep talk in Telangana. And that's a worrying factor. Because when many people come to Telangana, especially the parents who come from different states, on their job transfer to Telangana or taking up a new assignment here in Hyderabad, the first thing they look for is schools for the children. As we know, many middle class parents and even well-to-do parents, even not too well-to-do parents, all spend a substantial amount of the money that they have in educating their children. That's a priority for almost every Indian parent, to give good quality education for their children. Something like what we call a denial syndrome, that I couldn't get into an IIT, I want my child to get into an IIT. I couldn't become a doctor, so I want my child to become a doctor. I couldn't become an IIM student, so I want my child to become an IIM student. That's a problem, especially in the Telugu-speaking states. Of course, with the state planning to cap these fees and introduce stricter regulations, private school managements across Telangana, especially in Hyderabad, have halted their expansion plans. Many school owners argue that the financial constraints under such circumstances will make running schools unsustainable under the proposed rules. So there has to be a middle ground. Both ways cannot work. Of course, I always say this, if there is a buyer, there is a seller. And there is a parent, some parents who want to spend a lot on their children to have great standards of education. They would be willing to pay for it. On the other hand, there's a middle class which is stuck neither here nor there. Because the poor parents often either send their students to government schools or they kind of compromise on going to smaller schools, private schools. The middle class wants great education, but then they cannot afford to pay the fees which is being demanded by many international schools, so to speak of. And this is where the standards of education also come into play. And many Indian parents want the child to get the best education possible. So be it from the lower strata of the society where the parents want to send the children to great schools and good schools, to parents who are well-to-do want to send their children to international curriculum. And that is what like IB and others who want their children to go and study in such schools. The state government is now appointed one commission earlier, as we saw, and then the second commission that has come in now. Both these commissions have said different things. And when you want to have standards, naturally, somebody has to pay for it. Or else there are too many schools which provide equally good education, if you ask me. There is Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, which provides great education, has a number of schools across the Twin Cities. There are many good schools who are in the middle bracket who provide great education. But the infrastructure is limited. Because it costs money to set up a school in the middle of the city. It's impossible to have big grounds, playgrounds and other things. So many schools move outskirts. And that outskirts has also now come into the city. And that is the problem. The greater number of students in each class versus the limited number of students. Some schools have 40, 50 children in each classroom, but the parents want the children to have kind of direct interaction with the teacher, get personal attention, which means there cannot be more than 20 to 25 students per class. Well, then naturally the schools are talking about the average annual salary hikes they're going to give the teachers, which is between 10 and 12%. And they're saying, how will just limiting the fees to just 6.5% increase per year compensate for that? which is why I said there's a difference between OPEX and CAPEX. The school has already spent huge amounts of money setting up the school, cost crores to set up the school today. And then they need to pay interest on the loans which they have taken to kind of build that school. And then also run the school with the fees that is coming in. It's kind of a situation where one cascades onto the other. That is why many schools are saying they're reconsidering their plans to open another branch in the western corridor part of it, which is the most expensive in the city right now. Many school managements also expanding, but are now hesitant, fearing that the fee caps and regulations will impact their ability to maintain quality education. Naturally, somebody will cut corners somewhere, but then the parents also have to take a call. If I need to have good education, I need to pay more, or else there are schools which are offering. Then there are schools which are slave schools, as I call them. I don't want to name them, who say that we will give you IIT, NEET, everything put together right from class 7. Many parents don't even compromise with fees there. They don't even question those fees. And definitely some schools, like for example, charge about 5 lakhs per annum. If they decide to postpone their new branch or opening of a new one, what will they do? Where will the parents go who come to the city in the new format? And that is where the problem is going to come in. In 2023, in fact, the state government of Telangana issued a government order inviting applications for new school openings. Despite receiving about 200 applications, the Department of Education is yet to grant any approvals. Permissions were expected by Jan 15, 2024, but none have been issued so far. Possibly everybody is waiting for the government to move on the fees factor. The reality is that even if government sanctions permissions now, nobody wants to start a school in Telangana under these circumstances. And this is what Mr. Shekhar Rao, the president of the Telangana Recognized School Management Association, has said. In fact, they say that it is 20 lakhs to establish a small school. I say that is even a conservative figure. I think it will be about 30 to 40 lakhs. That too within commercial complexes, without any playground. And if the state government, regulates every aspect of it, without giving land to the schools, to set up schools if they want to run it in a very, very kind of not-for-profit manner, that's also a difficult thing. In fact, new schools are likely to open in Telangana in 25-26. It's absolutely impossible to open any school now. And then we see how things go from here. Because land is the most important part of setting up a school. The construction, the cost, the equipment, equipping the labs, libraries, classrooms, everything costs money. And of course, playgrounds. If you have football, cricket, tennis, most of the schools have that. Swimming pools, for example. And definitely, but now the education panel which has recommended this fees has now come to a reality factor that there needs to be a separate category for international students. Even though students are very few and far and less who joins these schools. And definitely their fees cannot be capped at 3.5 lakh because they get international teachers, they have international curriculum, they need to pay royalty for that and a lot of other things. A lot of students go for international academic program. They feel that they can shift to international schools abroad or colleges abroad without having to go through the entire rigor of taking an entrance again. The International Baccalaureate, the Cambridge and the CSE schools in the city and Telangana will be placed into a specific category and they will be allowed to charge some extra fees according to the panel. They say not even 1% of the students go to these schools, the total in Telangana. They are very few and far in number according to the panel. But even in this category, they say they will cap the fees at a maximum. Now, the problem is, as Mr. Vishweshwara, a member of the commission, said, that they would decide on the cap of the fees and hike after one more meeting with different stakeholders. In fact, that is what the most important thing is. Sometime back when the Tirupati Rao Commission was appointed, the balance sheets of schools are supposed to be uploaded onto the website, but I don't know whether really what was done or not done. In fact, the move comes after the members of the Independent School Management Association, which has top schools in Telangana as its members, met last week. The commission members said that the managements informed them that the pay hike, the hefty salaries and hikes for teachers they hire cost money. And they need to get top-notch talents to teach these students. There is also a possibility that parents from different strata also want to send their students to these schools. So they want to keep them affordable according to the logic. And this is what the most important thing is. The management said the 3.5 lakh rupees cap would not work for them as they have top-class infrastructure and teachers. A global city like Hyderabad, they say, cannot have a cap on fees if they want to provide top-notch education and maintain standards. That is what ISMA President Praveen Raju had said, that the management has said they even hire foreign teachers. They have great infrastructure. They hire coaches for sports. And all this costs money. And definitely, you cannot have it both ways. Parents and students and teachers and school management will have to sit together and think over it. Is education a service or a business? Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.